Today I'm making Helldivers armor for liber-tea. For this build, I used EVA foam dowels, craft foam, coffee foam, putty, super glue, contact cement, plastidip, sharpening stone, buckles, backpack straps, paint, cutting tools, sanding tools, safety gear, scissors, razor pens, and a box cutter. I'm gonna start with the arm plating because it's suspiciously similar to the Star Wars Commando armor, which I've already patterned out, so that saves some time. So I dug that up and traced it onto foam. So if you're not familiar, Helldivers is just Starship Troopers with better armor. But to be fair, the Starship Troopers movie kind of blew the budget on the bugs, you know? And the soldiers just have like the cheapest sci-fi flak jackets. Seriously, I think my grandpa had better armor when he went to war. And that was so long ago, it's literally called the Forgotten War. Like, really? Shouldn't that title go to 1812? Not if Canada has anything to say about it. 40 years later, and you couldn't put in a little bit more effort, Paul Verhoeven? You gave Peter Weller a robot suit in the 80s. Meanwhile, in the Huanshan Valley. So you duct tape the clips together and you got twice the bullets. And you tape two flamethrowers together, you can cook twice as many commies. Okay, Grandpa. See, in the book Starship Troopers, they're all supposed to be wearing mech suits, like proto Iron Man suits. Something like this. Of course, I just have one lying around. Also got some Stormtroopers, a Cylon, K2SO, a couple R2s, R4 running around here somewhere. But yeah, the guy who came up with the mech suit concept, the Iron Man suit concept, did so in the 1950s, so cut him some slack. When Heinlein was born, the height of military technology was a guy on a horse with a sword. And when he died, it was the Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. And a whole bunch of horrific missteps along the way. Like the kamikaze. Guy literally acmeed himself into the afterlife. Or how about this monstrosity? Oh, this line is gonna suck. Hans, sehr mein Maschinengewehr fährt. Sehr good, ja? While the British were clearly light years ahead with their parallelogram technology. Oh dear, it seems the Bosch has horse-mounted automatic rifles. Send word to HQ, old boy. Righto. So based on actual ridiculous history, Heinlein had to extrapolate the next god-awful nightmare that we'd inflict on each other. And I think he got pretty close, just between you and me. So first you make a basic tube, and that's gonna be the core of the gauntlet. Then you build up the detail. It's all just layers. Started with 1/2" EVA foam, but you can go thinner. I heat formed it with my heat projecting machine until it was hot enough to mold into a 3-dimensional rounded shape. Rolled it up and stuck it into a cylinder, transparent for your benefit. When it cooled, I glued the edges together. Then I started the next layer. It is just foam all the way down, and the steps are always the same. The left and right gauntlets aren't identical though. The bases are the same, but one has a little computer on it, like a Pip-Boy, or Leela's arm gadget from Futurama. I like to build my phone into these for ease of access at conventions, which I do recommend for this particular armor because the thigh guards are gonna get in the way of your pockets. But because people have all different size phones, I'm just gonna go for full accuracy on this one, and y'all can make up your own mind. I made the screen out of blue foam though, just because I do a lot with blue screen. Oh, actually on that, if you're going with the yellow highlights, that will make it harder to use this armor on green screen, not blue. Blue is fine, but because yellow is a component of green, it's just harder to key. But yeah, whatever size your phone is, just make it to encompass that. The screen is made of multiple layers, making it unnecessarily complicated. When I figured it out, I glued it to the thing. Before painting, I did a test fitting just to make sure I didn't need to make any adjustments. It's always easier to make changes before you paint. And if it doesn't fit, don't worry, you don't have to start from scratch. You can literally just cut it open and then add a shim in there to widen it. I started with a coat of flat black paint because it dries the fastest and will even out the whole surface. Next, I made the back plate. This is kind of new territory for me, so I'm going to start with what I know how to do. So this is just a standard armor back plate template that I start with whenever I'm starting a completely new armor suit that I have no experience with. The basic shape is always the same, and then I'll carve it down and build it up as needed, at least in my experience. When the main plate was done, I moved on to the details. I started with this spine bit. I heat formed it to give it a curve. That's actually just to bulk it out. The real detail is going to be on the next layer, which is the same shape but with vents. That's the standard machine greebly. Oops, all vents. Although to be fair, wearing a costume made out of this material is like wearing a down jacket. So seriously, make these vents functional. Maybe put some cooling fans plans in there. They're like $10 online. You'll thank me later. Next, I made these, I don't know, whatever the shoulder blade muscle is. Doesn't matter. I'm not a human mechanic. I glued those to the back plate. Then I made this lower spine bit. And this is kind of blocky, so I'm going to bevel the sides using an extremely sharp work knife. These blades dull out as you use them, which causes a rough cut as you work. So I started with a fresh blade, and when that inevitably happened, I cleaned it up with the rotary tool. The foam, that is, not the blade. Blade, I used the sharpener. So there's kind of this lobster shell of panels thing going on here, and that will look really bulky and unwieldy if I only use floor mat foam. So as I went, I switched to craft foam, which is chemically the same as the floor mat foam, but comes in thinner sizes. Next, I made the kidney armor, the most underappreciated of armor, easy, and formed them inside a helmet of tutorials past. Then I made the shoulder straps pretty much the same way, except for with more detail. I attached them to the back plate at the top. Then I cut up these pieces for the neck protector, and there we have a back plate. Now, to get all the armor plates to match to each other and fit properly, they need to be aligned to the wearer. Luckily, I have a pattern mannequin of myself to my exact proportions pre-pandemic, so I'll probably have to let it out in the gut a bit, or eat a single turnip. It's too high a price. It's too high a price. So as I finish a piece, I'm gonna skewer it to the dummy using these wood skewers that'll hold it in place and allow me to align the other pieces to get a perfect fit. Not to mention, glue has a dry time. If you don't want to stand there for 20 minutes, it helps to have something to hold it together. Actually, gator clamps would work, but they leave a really obvious impression in the foam that's somehow harder to cover up than a skewer hole, It's bizarre. Next, I made the chest plate. This is a standard armor plate. I'm literally going to completely cover it up with detail, but something has to support all that. So here we go. Now let's add more panels. I added side panels, again craft foam, and then a central chest panel, perfect for a patriotic logo of his skull. Where have I seen that before? Aunts, a way to patties. Then I added bevels to the sides so that it looks less like stacked flat pieces and more geometric. You can buy triangle foam, but also you can just make a slanted offcut from a larger piece, depending. So, Now let's add more panels. It's just panels. Again with craft foam and more bevel offcuts. Then I built up the belly. So there's an alternation between curves and angles with this armor. And for curves, I'm just heat forming. For the angles, I'm cutting a notch out of the back of the foam and just folding it to create a rounded angle. Once all the panels were attached, I added hinge details using a half circle bevel. I glued that on there. Then I painted it flat black. It's better to paint these when you can lay them flat so the paint doesn't run. So I'm gonna paint these armor pieces as I finish each one. You paint them on the mannequin, then it's gonna, for sure, you're gonna have a bunch of solidified paint drops. And it won't be very convincing unless you're specifically going for dramatic soldier in the rain photo shoot. And you're on your own with that. I ain't building no rain rigs. It's just so much PVC pipe. Just destroy my water bill. As each piece dried, I attached them to the dummy. This one I immediately connected to the back plate in order to ensure the correct fit and to get those skewers out of there. Now for the shoulder armor. Because it's layers, it's kind of like making 8 shoulder armor panels. Hey Jake, why is this build taking so long? I don't know, maybe because each piece has 4 layers? So I basically signed up to build 4 different suits of armor. Curse you, past Jake. So I made those, I layered them all together to make one super thick, but still not bulletproof, shoulder armor. Hey, while we're on it, while we're ranting, why don't our actual soldiers have shoulder armor? It seems so obvious. Like, we got the helmet, we got the Kevlar chest piece thing. Why not the rest of it? Okay, I get that the joints have to be open so that you can move. Why not Kevlar thigh guards? It's always that one artery in the leg that's problematic. Or most importantly, why not Kevlar cod pieces? Just saying. I feel like our armor priorities should be cod piece, head piece, and that's it. Or like everything but the joints, because frankly, that's beyond my technology. I don't know what to do about the joints. What are we doing here? For real. I'm not saying that I should be running the military, okay? But what are we doing? Like, if we can't give our boys Iron Man suits, then just iron cod pieces. Come on, what are we doing? What were we doing? Oh yeah, shoulders. So important. Gotta protect that from deadly melanoma. There's a melanoma. There's a melanoma. There's a skin tag. How do you get cancer? All of the reasons. All the reasons. Everything. Everything, everywhere, all at Chernobyl. I did meet Kyle Hill though. He's gotta be throwing off some residual background radiation. I used backpacks straps for the dangly bits. That's the professional term, the dangly bits, because it's much more durable than 2mm thick foam. Now for the knee pads, skipping right over the codpiece. See, again, why? That's all I want when going to war. My kidneys, give me a codpiece. So again, these are loosely based on Commander Trooper knee pads, but I couldn't just use my old pattern. They're inverted and a little bit different. Not quite the same shape. These are all prototypes. You know, when I find out what works, then I make the template that I actually provide. Just ignore my notations.
Ignore me!
Glued that together and added some random details. Then painted it, and rather than painting the yellow, because that would be a million layers if I did it in paint, I'm gonna use yellow foam strips of 2mm foam. Because you know, that's great camouflage. Yellow. Have fun at Juno Beach. You highlighted the kneecaps. Next, I made the shin guards. First, I made this base layer rounded, kind of like a half of a pipe, and then I built a bunch of squared off angled stuff to go on top of it. Because angles mean the future and make people think space. Thanks, James A. McCory. Or is it C. McCasey? The Expanse guy. I see you in your sawzalled styrofoam. Sorry, I used to build movie sets, and now I can't watch sci-fi shows in high definition because I can just see that it's styrofoam. So basically I just don't wear my glasses when I watch TV. Not everything is better in HD. And because these are going to be super bulky and it's going to look weird if I keep using the floor mat foam, I switched to 4mm craft foam. In fact, depending on how skinny you want certain parts to be, you might want to use 4mm for everything. I don't know. The dome, well, people come in all shapes and sizes. You must do what you feel is best, of course. I built that up and then added more yellow flourishes so that the snipers can get the ankles too. And I added all the straps. So because I don't want these to unravel over time, I used a small flame to fuse the ends of the freshly cut straps. You're gonna be careful when you do this. In fact, I'm not even gonna recommend that you do this. I'm just saying, and this is what I did. There's also these little details. And now for the thigh guards, like the necessary part. Okay, all right, so this is also a thing that's bugging me. The femoral artery, that's what it's called. Like, that's on the interior. So there should be something in the front to protect the femoral artery. Most of it's exposed right now. Battle kilts. We should all be going to war in battle kilts, like armored kilts. The Scottish almost got it right. Just make it out of metal. Forget the helmets. Codpieces and thigh guards. Oh, it's horrifying. I took extra care to sand away the thigh guards so they don't chafe, because comfort. And then heat formed it. When it cooled, I glued the edges together. And there's basic thigh armor. This could work for multiple cosplays, but to make it specifically Helldivers, gotta make the outer armor the same way as all the other parts. Chop them up, just cutting up foam. It ain't rocket surgery. What is rocket surgery? We're losing him! 50 cc's of hydrazine stat! Clear! Guys, while setting up that cutscene and scouring my inventory of space props for that joke, I found a space shuttle that had been partially devoured by rats. Proving that when we do finally colonize other worlds, we need not worry about any native species because they'll instantly be annihilated, not by germs, as H.G. Wells predicted, but by the inevitable rat population that we bring with us. Enjoy bubonic plague, Martians! Now excuse me while I set up rat traps. And now, we wait. It wasn't rats! Now for the helmet, finally. Cue stock footage. First, I traced a helmet dome template onto a sheet of EVA foam floor mat. I made this dome template years ago and have been refining it ever since. There's a link to it in the video description down below, along with a complete Helldivers armor template, and I guess comments, but I mean, you know, probably easier to find in the description. So, soldier helmets for the most part have the same basic dome structure that I've done dozens of times in other videos. And this video is already taken way too long to edit. So, hey, look, it's the old workshop. Whatever happened to that? So that's why no one will rent me an apartment without a co-signer. Huh, mystery solved. I flipped it, I traced it, and I cut one out for the other side. I heat formed that and glued them all together. Then I let it sit overnight to air out, and in the meantime, I made the back rim of the helmet just by cutting a long rectangle. I think this is the same as on the Stormtrooper helmet. Heat formed it, then I worked on the outer faceplate. I do want to point out though that this mask is very similar to a paintball mask, so if you're building from scratch and you happen to be a paintballer, that might save you some time. Just saying. You know, you don't have to build out of foam. It's just the most abundant material I happen to have because I'm so used to building things out of foam. Then I attached the faceplate to the base plate. Swear I didn't just have it stroke. Okay, now for the detail layer. Initially, it's just a copy of the base plate, but I cut the edges at an angle and then cut air holes, which aren't real, but I do recommend you make them real because, again, you're wearing insulation. This will be great for Halloween. You know, because it'll be warm. I don't know, I guess it depends on how far south you are. I sliced off the back of those so that they would come out slanted. So it's not a total rectangle, so I sort of pressed it in, little triangular wedge comes out, sliced that off. Then I glued on the mask, making sure to glue down those cutouts so that they would remain slanted and hold on to that angle. Then I cut the top detail. I cut the edges slanted to cut down on the sanding. Then I heat formed it. While it cooled down, I made the brow details out of 2mm craft foam. The color doesn't matter because I'm gonna paint it over. I mean, it helps if you use black, but again, running out of foam, so sometimes, you know, I'll use what I got. Oh, hey, look, it looks like cat ears. Hey, sound out in the comments if you're a cat person so that I know where to send the drone strike. Next, I glued the center band on top. I was worried that I have to scrap this helmet dome when I originally made it because, honestly, not my best work. The seams aren't great. I don't know what I was thinking, but a great thing about the Helldivers helmet is that the detail panels on it actually cover up most of the seams. So if you have a bad seam, you don't even have to sand it. You can just cover them up with panels. More on that later. All right now, because from here on out, it's just attaching intricate details. Built up the vents on either side. I'm gonna make a core out of slanted scrap foam, just so that it doesn't deform. I cut the exterior bits out of 4mm craft foam. This will cover up the core and bulk them out to the proper dimensions. Then I built out the neck guard with another curved piece. I cut these latch wall details from 1/2-inch thick foam. I rounded the edges and glued them on. Then I filled in the gap with scrap bevel foam. Then I made the inset visor frame details out of 4mm craft foam and 2mm on top of that. I also made a lot of back details out of 4mm foam, including the brim, which I used to hide the messy width transition from the dome to the side wrap. And then I made this matrix neck port in the back from bevel foam and camera packaging. EVA foam is everywhere, guys. I mean, mostly the ocean, but those sea monsters won't extinct themselves. Oh, that's so cruel. Dude, imagine if lions could fly, had to fly, and therefore were always hungry. That's the ocean. It's full of flying lions. Griffins, if you will, but they're called sharks and also have bigger jaws. I added a few small details, then I covered up the seams with Alex Fast Dry Putty. A DAP product. And finally, I painted it. I obviously avoided that ugly seam because it's going to be covered by 2mm yellow foam. And, you know, it'll just glue better when it doesn't have to go through a paint barrier. When the paint dried, I cut the yellow strips out of 2mm craft foam and glued them on, then made the vents out of gray 2mm craft foam and added some small skull stencils and a visor. That was too enthusiastic. Going again, and a visor. This is just scrap plastic that I had laying around, but a pair of ski goggles will also work. And I was done. Now I can spread democracy throughout the galaxy. Oh, quick side note, this isn't an accurate blaster. This is actually a Stargate blaster, which ironically is a real blaster. If you want to see me make all the Helldivers blasters, like game accurate blasters, then head on over to the Patreon because YouTube can't tell the difference between real and video game blasters, and they just blanket ban everything, so I cannot fund those. Like if I hit monetize this video, then I get Thanos snapped. They're constantly watching, and that's why you shouldn't fear AI. You can just send out cardboard decoys and take them out like that. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I'd like to thank my patrons. These videos just wouldn't be possible without the support of my patrons. So if you enjoy these builds, want to see more of them, and want your build request to carry a bit more weight, then think about heading on over to the Patreon page, where you can enjoy ad-free early uploads. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of the future uploads, because it's kind of at a totally random schedule. And let me know what other props you'd like to see me make in comments down below. Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later.